Hello.
All right, I don't have to introduce. I get to sit on the stage now. Very excited to have Sean Rad here on stage in conversation. I'm a huge fan of his career, and let's get into it. So, Sean, you have started 3 startups.
Yes.
Right? And various levels of success. What are 3 lessons you'd like to share with a lot of the startups here in the audience today?
Good question. I think the first is that you really have to love what you do.
Yes.
And because if you don't love it, when things get hard, you sort of lose a sense of purpose or reason to keep fighting. And things do get hard, because to build anything that is truly great is difficult. The second thing is that it's not enough for you to just love it. You have to inspire others to love it as well, because you can't do it alone.
Yeah.
The greatest companies are the ones where you walk into the office and you feel that everyone's there with a common sense of purpose. Everyone understands what they're working on and how what they're doing impacts the broader goals of the company. And if you don't have that, you start to develop politics. You start to develop selfish decision making. So I think it's very important. The third thing, which I think is probably the most important thing I've learned, is that obstacles in business are actually a good thing. It might sound a little crazy, but I kind of get a little excited when a mistake is made, because it's an opportunity to step back, learn, and grow. When something bad happens to you, you really have 2 choices. You can either get angry, back down, and use that as an excuse to stop moving, or you could take a step back and admit that a mistake was made, and use that as an opportunity to learn and actually grow. And those things might sound a little obvious, but they really are not. I mean, take doing what you love. In order to do what you love, you have to find out what you love, which takes a lot of work, a lot of patience, and we could spend a lifetime getting to know ourselves and not really know what we truly love to do.
Yeah, great. So besides founding Tinder, you're also doing a lot of investments in startups.
Yeah.
You've invested in about 35 startups so far. What kind of startups are you investing in? You're looking into AI or health tech or these kind of things?
Yeah. So, I've been doing this. I'm still young, but I've been doing this for long enough to know that innovation tends to come in waves. You have periods where everyone's focused on building new technologies, new tools, and then entrepreneurs sort of come out and take those tools and apply them to new applications in society, and society starts to get comfortable with them. And what you notice is that every wave of innovation is bigger than the last, because it carries over and compounds. So for me, I love investing, because as you go into one of those ways of innovation, it's a great opportunity to learn and to understand the new technologies that are coming out and how they're going to impact the world. And then as an entrepreneur, I could take that learning and start to think about ways to create things that maybe no one in the investment pool has thought about. For me, there's a lot of things happening in the next, I would say, 5 to 10 years that are really going to change life as we know it. There's a lot of themes I'm excited about, but the 3 I think about the most are AI, and it's the impact it's going to have on how we interface, from everything to healthcare to transportation to our smartphones. VR, and how it's going to give us a new way to communicate as a society and express our feelings. There's unbelievable advancements in health and medicine. I think low-cost genomic readers are going to really change the way we understand our bodies and minds, and give us new ways to heal ourselves.
Interesting.
So I think those are the probably 3 things I'm most excited about.
So I also think there's a little bit of a lesson there for investing as well. How to be a good investor. You actually should go through it as you have. I'm sure you've spoken to a lot of investors as well, and then now you've taken the entrepreneur journey, and now you're in the investment journey. So you're like, you've learned some lessons from that as well. That's pretty cool. So as being here in Asia, I do a lot of traveling around and bringing startups to come to Rise. And every country in Asia has like a mission to go global. Start going global. If it's Japan or Korea, maybe China is not so much. They're their own place. But the rest of us all have to go global. Now, one thing I've noticed is Tinder is extremely global from day one. It seems like, sure, dating is a global thing, but what are some lessons that you would like to share for startups who are like in Asia looking to go global, looking to the US,
Great
or just,
question.
These kind of things? I think this is something that I would also like to learn.
Yeah. Well, if you step back, go back to before the internet, and as a human species, when we would come up with a great idea, we really only had the ability to share it with the people immediately around us. We didn't really have the tools to go further than that. Now with the advent of the internet, social media, low-cost transportation, an idea can travel the world almost overnight. So I tend to not think about companies as local versus global. If you don't sort of think of yourself as global day one, what you're going to find is there's going to be a lot of disappointed customers around the world who've heard about your product but can't use it. So at Tinder, in the very early days, we saw this. We saw word traveling, and for us, it wasn't enough to just localize the app in different languages. We really wanted to understand what made every country unique. You can't take the approach as a global company that what works in one country works in every country. There are sort of universal things that make us human and universal behaviors, but everyone's different, and there are different cultural impacts. And the way to really capture that learning is to have feet on the street in every market. In the first, I would say, 3 months, we had teams in every country bringing us feedback and advocating for the users in those countries and telling us how we can improve the product, not just as a whole for everyone, but also within that market.
Interesting. So I want to know, have you seen this Black Mirror episode, Hang the DJ?
Yes.
Okay, so I thought, how many people have seen that episode? Because I'm going to go deep into this, and then maybe you haven't seen it. All right, maybe not too many people have seen it. But it's like another version of like what something like a dating app might be in the future. What do you think is going to happen here? I tagged you in a GIF on Twitter. The guy had a VR helmet on, and he was like this in space. Like people were watching him going like this. Look, what's next? Is there going to be like and this is not just for dating, I think, just because you have this a lot of social interactions going on.
Yeah. What
kind of new technologies do you think we're going to look at in the next 5 years, and how this is going to play out?
So I don't think the episodes or sort of the concepts in Black Mirror are going to become a reality. I think the reality is that as technology gets better, it brings us closer together, not further apart. AI, for example, a lot of people talk about AI and what it could do as far as uncovering new possibilities with data. But I like to think about how AI can create new experiences that can help us connect in the real world better. For example, our phones are very powerful tools. We have more information in our pocket than probably the President of the United States in the 90s. But that could be very overwhelming because we're getting inundated with push notifications. So imagine how AI could help create space. And AI could know that if I'm with my mom and having lunch and I haven't seen her in a while, that maybe that work email isn't really a priority right now, and maybe it should not interrupt me. Or maybe something from my fiance or something is a priority, and that might be relevant to my conversation with a family member. So you really, even taking it to the dating context, I think in 5 years, it's not crazy to think that instead of me swiping on Tinder, I might talk to my phone, and my phone might tell me, "Hey, Sean, there's a great girl that we think you're going to like, and you have a lot of common friends, and you both come from a similar cultural background, and you're both free Thursday night. How about a quick coffee? Yeah. And that transaction or that relationship that introduction might be created by some sort of AI. So the possibilities on the interface side are just so fascinating to me.
Yeah, very interesting. When I mentor a lot of startups, I always try to find out what a secret sauce is for them, something that makes it a little bit more unique than just another app. Mm-hmm. For you came up with this secret sauce, I think, early, and it's become like a verb now, to swipe left, swipe right. I've always wanted to know this, and I think a lot of people do. Where did that come from? And then also, how did you know that was going to be the traction pull to the app, and that would be something that would be added to the lexicon of our digital age?
Yeah, good question. Well, okay, so let's step back for a second. Let's go back to the first dating site.
Yeah.
Right? Way before Tinder. That was a product that was really created for people who didn't have time to go out and date, or they lived in a rural area and they didn't have access to people. And they essentially created a database. But that didn't do much, because I think the bigger underlying problem and the insight, that I had many, many years ago is that even if I find someone that I like in the real world or on an online dating site, it's still very intimidating to walk up to them or message them and introduce myself. I'm afraid I'm going to get rejected. It really makes me question myself. So, years ago, I had this insight that why not remove that rejection? If we can take that rejection away, it would uncover so many more relationships that couldn't happen otherwise. So we came up with this idea of what we call the blind double opt-in, which is if I like someone, I can swipe right, or I can like them, and they won't know that I like them until they also like me back. So it removes the element of rejection. And kind of like if I look at someone across the room and I'm fortunate enough that I catch them looking back at me. And that was what really revolutionized not just the online dating space, but I think the dating space, period. It revolutionized the way people are meeting. And that was sort of the key insight. The swipe was sort of the one of the ways we brought that technology to life. And it was such a cool thing to remember and talk about. And it in a way made a simple but very powerful concept even more simple and approachable. So I think that was essential to our success.
Very cool, very cool. Okay, and so now you're kind of changing your main focus onto investing. And you're here at Red Rise and coming to Asia for the first time yourself personally under your new role. What do you see? What is attractive for you to come to Asia? Or what do you see and what are you interested in exploring more in the market over here?
Yeah. So I've learned a lot about Asia from a distance. Unfortunately, I've never had the opportunity to come here until now. And I've only been here for 36 hours, so it's hard to...
But your brother's here every month, though.
Yeah, my brother's here every month, and he does a lot of business here, and he tells me great stories.
Gotta come over.
Yeah, he's amazing. I think you sort of sense an aggression and an energy here. Everyone's really ambitious and hardworking, and I think that's exciting. It's really exciting to see that thirst. So that is, I think, in the little time that I've been here, that is the one thing that I've really captured.
Do you think that that's lacking now in the U.S.? Do you think that people are getting complacent there? Is that why China is getting this new surge of innovation because the Americans are slowing down?
No, I mean, I don't think it's lacking, but I think it's only natural when you have periods of great innovation to sort of detox for seconds. So I think, you sort of see these waves in different markets, but that aggression exists, I think, everywhere. Maybe it's a little more dense here than I've experienced in other countries, but I think what's beautiful now is if you have a great idea, you could really build it anywhere, right? The playing field has totally been leveled. It doesn't matter if you're, 12 or 50. We're living in a time when you can really be anyone you want. And I think it's an exciting time to be alive.
The one thing I see that the U.S., especially Silicon Valley, they seem to accept moonshots, these crazy ideas, quicker. Everybody after the fact says, we could have made a Facebook, we could have done an Airbnb, but the reality is I don't think anybody in Asia would have funded an Airbnb, the concept of having another person living in your house that easily. So I find that to be something that's quite, American. Whereas here in Asia, especially in China, I see that people do a lot more necessity things, translations and machine learning and all these kind of things.
Yeah, look, I think you look at all of history, pretty much every phenomenal invention or great invention came from someone who took a risk, right? And I think when you live in an environment where you're able to take risks, and going back to what I was saying earlier, and you're able to sort of train your mind to say that no matter what happens, as long as I have the courage to pay attention and admit when I made a mistake, I'm going to take that and turn that insight into, something else and something bigger. Then you're going to constantly humans will constantly create great things as long as they can come together and do that in groups. So definitely innovation. In order for people and entrepreneurs to flourish, you need that support system. You need that ecosystem, both at home and within your community. And I think, that definitely exists in America, and that's why I'm fortunate to live there. But I feel it here. I feel like that exists in so many places now across the world.
Yeah, and definitely in Asia, every city's building the ecosystems out. But they're usually missing one piece of the main pie. Yep. Everybody has either all of the two of the three or one of the three, but not the whole pie yet. And that's why we always look to. And
that's also why we need to collaborate. That's also
exactly.
why, as we globalize and as we can work together, not just as a local city or country, but as a sort of a species, as a group, and we can accomplish more things because we bring diverse talents and diverse value to the table.
That's great. Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Sean.
Guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.